right, thank you so much. Welcome to another episode of the award-winning Sales Game Changers podcast. My name is Fred Diamond. I'm the president of the Institute for Effective Professional Selling, and Plamen, over 850 Sales Game Changers podcasts. Today, I'm very excited. It's a special office hours Sales Professors Unplugged sub-brand of the Sales Game Changers podcast. On that show, typically every other week on a Thursday, I interview someone who leads a professional selling program at a university. Usually those universities are associated with the University Sales Center Alliance. They typically offer a sales major, sales minor, or a certificate, or just a high concentration of classes. And this show, Plamen, has been very, very well received by the audience at the Sales Game Changers podcast. I want to remind people you can go to salesgamechangerspodcast.com, salesgamechangerspodcast.com, to find every past episode that we've ever done with some of Plamen's peers, which we'll talk about here in a second. You can go to Apple Podcasts to listen to the podcast. If you do go to Apple, give us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. You know, Plamen, the show's been very well received. We're getting a lot of interaction. I've had a number of your peers. Again, we're talking today with Plamen Peev with Towson University. And not too far from me, as a lot of our listeners know, I'm based in Northern Virginia, technically Fairfax, Virginia, on the west side of the DC Beltway, and you're located on the complete other side of the Beltway, further north from us. But what's interesting is a number of people who've been on the podcast before have reached out to me. As a matter of fact, it was our good friend, the great Kevin Carr, who introduced us originally. Kevin with Cvent, I think he was episode number 9 on my podcast back in 2017 when we were first kicking off, and he saw what we were doing with our program with universities and said, he's very active at Towson, and he introduced us. And I'm excited to talk to you about what we're going to be talking about. So first, give us an introduction. We got a bunch of questions I want to get to. Let us know about you. How did you get to this role at Towson, and whatever else you want to tell us? And then we got a bunch of great questions to ask you.
Yes, well, thank you, Fred, for having me. Kevin Carr he's a Towson University graduate, and he's on my advisory board for the sales center, newly created sales center at Towson University. And so he let me know, it was sometime last year when he made me aware of the podcast, and I've been following it. And it's very exciting to finally be able to talk to you on the podcast. So I appreciate your invitation. So yeah, I came to Towson University from the University of Georgia in 2011, when at the time there wasn't really anything related to sales education that was going on here. As a matter of fact, this is what probably got me the job. Like, nobody wanted to teach sales, and they had a sales class as part of the marketing major. Now we started really small with like a really small scale sales competition. Probably this was 2015, 2016. So I think it's our 10th year actually in organizing that. The judges were mostly personal contacts, family and friends of other faculty members. A couple of years later, we introduced sponsorship opportunities because we felt that there are a lot of companies in the area that hire our graduates for sales roles, and we saw a lot of excitement among the business community. Salespeople get excited about stuff like this, like really easy. And so as soon as I reach out to people and say, hey, we're doing this thing at Towson University. First of all, I heard a lot of, I've been recruiting here for 10 years, and I've never spoken to a sales professor before. I was like, well, that's pretty easy because there was none. There weren't any sales professors per se. But since then, we've used that momentum. So now we do two sales competitions per academic year.
Hmm.
Uh, we usually have between 60 and 70 students in each. We are ready to launch a sales certificate. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about it later in the podcast.
Yeah, let's tell us
Um,
about that now. So I know you have a
yeah.
new certification. Give us a little bit of an insight to that.
So the sales certificate will be something that students are going to be getting recognized on their diploma. Don't ask me why it's not a sales minor. It
Hmm.
has to do with the way the University System of Maryland operates, and it's a little bit of a political issue, a little bit of procedural issue in terms of what the approval process is within the University System of Maryland. So I'm not going to get into details about that. But we have the certification, which is going to include we currently have two classes. One is an intro level professional selling class, and the other one is an advanced selling class, which is an elective. We're going to add to these classes two newly created classes, which are sales leadership, and then we have one that I'm very excited about. This is a sales innovation and technology class.
Yeah.
So these four classes, along with students participating in the sales club that we've created during the last year, and the sales competitions, that's going to constitute the certification. We just went through voting on the approval at the university level, so I'm fully expecting the certificate to be launched with probably 10 to 15 students in the fall, with the expectation to grow this exponentially in the next few years.
Good. So we're doing today's interview at the end of March of 2026. You know, when you and I were doing the prep talk for this, you talked about the unique profile of the Towson student. No, it's a diverse student population. You were telling me a lot of students are first generation college students. Give us a little bit of a peek into that and how that is relevant to the sales program that you're creating.
So yeah, and, again, coming from the University of Georgia, which is another big flagship public university, although in a different state, I was probably not quite ready to. It was a little unexpected, the profile of the population at Towson University, which I knew was also a large public university. But it's very different, I think, in demographics from College Park, from the University of Maryland College Park. So I found out once I got here, I found out that a lot of our students actually have full-time jobs in addition to taking classes. So that I would probably unofficially put that number at about 50% of the population, and
Wow.
and probably even more of them have part-time jobs. Um, so there was a definite difference in just the amount of grit that those students had, and Towson students, that is, compared to what I've seen at the University of Georgia. So, and then I started hearing from employers. They really appreciate the hardworking, the grit of the Towson University graduates, and so I saw that theme. I'm like, man, this is stuff that's actually very applicable to the sales profession as well. And so I think we have that going for us for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, grit is the word that we used to use all the time, you know, during on the Sales Game Changes podcast. And we one thing we do at the Institute for Effective Professional Selling is we do events for selling professionals. We've actually done sessions just on grit. And I can see a young adult with a full-time job and the commitment to go to college to take their lives and their career to the next level definitely is overcoming challenges and trying to figure out how to balance things. And you know, I hate to use the word sacrifice, but you know, to make prioritization of things. And that sounds it's pretty good. You know, it's kind of curious. You mentioned to me that you also teach a class on business etiquette. So why is that?
So we have, again, I feel like we benefit from a very I don't want to say necessarily a blue collar student population, but definitely the background, the socioeconomic background of our students, is different from the big private universities in the area or the flagship public universities. So a lot of these students are first generation students within their families. And so we started seeing, I had a couple conversations with students that, came to me and came to my colleagues and said, look, I'm going through this interview process for this company. And the third round of the interview is supposed to be a formal dinner. And I'm freaking out a little bit because, presented with all these options in terms of forks and spoons, like I don't actually know exactly how that all like everything works here. And so when you start, hearing stuff like this on a consistent basis, you figure out maybe we need to have an etiquette dinner. And so the marketing club decided that we're going to have this workshop dinner once a semester, and we found a company in Towson that specializes in exactly that kind of education. We had the Towson's own Black and Gold Catering to do like a 6 or 7 course menu. And as we go through the menu, the company that we hired, explains the importance of what's happening during dinner, the everything that goes along with it, the small talk, and all the other exciting stuff. And so it's eye-opening very often for us as well. We definitely have a few things to learn, but for the students that participate in that, I think it's an amazing experience, and if even if nothing else, it gives them the confidence to handle situations like that.
No, that's a great point. And actually, a lot of what we talk about, of course, at the Institute for Effective Professional Selling is how you communicate, right? And
Absolutely.
not to your peers, but in a lot of cases, the selling professionals or the young adults who are coming out with these degrees are because of their knowledge of the sales process and what they're being taught, they're getting access to people that are let's just say career wise or above them, that maybe a couple notches above, and they're used to a certain type of interaction and communication. And I'm thrilled that you're doing that and showing them, various ways of how to communicate effectively and how to present yourself, especially as they're given this opportunity with this education to now provide value to the company. You were telling me that almost anyone who's enrolled at the university can take your classes, not just the sales team, and obviously you don't have a major or minor, so there's not students who are just in that path, so to speak. Is that happening? Are students from all over the university, finding out about your classes and then taking them?
So we still have to do some missionary work
Hmm.
in terms of getting the word out. Um, uh, but I can see more and more students becoming aware of the fact that there's just a lot of opportunities in the sales profession. And again, we teach our classes from a business to business perspective, right? So that would involve a lot of industries where the salespeople have to have a little bit of knowledge of, say, chemistry or biology or some of the engineering the fields that are associated to engineering. So it's not necessarily limited to the business students. There are a lot of manufacturers out there who are really looking for this perfect and very rare profile of somebody with like the technical education background, but also knowledge of the sales process and understanding of the importance of asking the right questions and understanding the needs of the buyer, so you can actually solve the problems that the buyer is facing on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's not necessarily unique for business students. I think they were probably the first to kind of become more aware of the fact that this is where a lot of the jobs are,
Yeah,
and even
it's
if your
true.
job is not necessarily a sales role per se, you can apply a lot of those skills every day at work. So
Yeah. So that
We're
that
going
makes it.
to expand, so we made
Yeah.
some changes
Okay.
when it comes to our sales classes, since they required a marketing class as a prerequisite. And now we're going to open that up and make these classes accessible to all students in all majors. We've historically had a lot of mass communication students who minor in marketing, um, a lot of um, a lot of sports management majors who minor in marketing. These are majors outside of the business school. I had a 1 year when a nursing student won the second place in the sales competition. So
Ah,
we went to the Kennesaw State competition, and the companies were very interested in him because he was probably the only student out of 150 contestant with that specific profile. But also, I'm hoping to be reaching out. I'm in talks with the dean of the Fisher College of Science at Towson University, and he's very open to really advertising this new certificate program to the science students as well, which I think is where we're going to find a lot of traction.
that's great. A lot of the leaders that we interview for the Sales Game Changers podcast and that are part of our Institute for Effective Professional Selling, maybe they came from chemistry or they came from other science, and now they understand. One of the two things we always say is to be successful in professional selling, you need to intimately understand your customer's marketplace and what they do and why they do it and for whom, or you need to really, really understand what you're selling better than anybody and how it fits in the ecosystem with other products and other solutions, if you will. So yeah, coming out with a degree in chemistry or biology or other sides, medical, if you will, that'll definitely give you a heads up. Just kind of curiously, what do these students, what do they want to know? Right. Obviously they might have heard, if I can get a job in sales, pays more money, better career, all those kind of things. I'm just kind of curious, what do they want to learn from you and your organization?
I think they're excited to hear. I drop in the intro professional selling class. Really, I can see there were a couple of moments during that first semester when I can see students change their mindset in terms of how they approach thinking about professional selling. One of those moments is when I tell them, look, if you end up in a sales role and you really have trouble justifying the money that people are paying for your product. In other words, you're not believing really in your product. It's probably time for you to look for another job, because that long term this is just not gonna work for you. And when I drop sentences like this, or when we have these moments in the classroom, or telling them, hey, it's if if um if there is no solution that I am solving for you, and not a problem that I'm solving for you, right? I don't really want you to buy anything from me, because what's the point, right? Creating customers that then have questions about their decisions to purchase a couple of months later or a couple of weeks later. That's not working well for anybody, really. And so students, you see their eyes and like, oh, okay, so this may be different than the stereotypes that they had
Yeah.
when they were walking in the classroom with. And so I think they're excited to explore sales in that sense. So in that sense, I think they're eager to learn how to ask the right questions and how to listen well and how to probe for solutions. And it's this investigative work that I think is exciting for a lot of them, to try to figure out an issue that maybe even the buyer is not fully aware of. And I think that's exciting for the students.
Yeah, that's great. That opens up a whole new way of thinking about sales. Of course, we view sales as being of service. The companies that work with the Institute for Effective Professional Selling are some of the top companies in the world, and customers don't buy things, especially now. We're doing the interview in 2026 that they don't need, that they don't want. Not only will they not buy, they don't even want to engage with sales organizations unless the sales professional, the selling professional, is bringing value for where they need to get to that they may not understand or that they know they need to get to, and they just want true professional assistance. Speaking of that, you had mentioned before that there are some companies that are supporting your efforts. Uh, what do they expect from supporting your efforts, being corporate sponsors? And what's a message that you want to get across to those who may not see the value in being associated with a program such as yours at Towson State?
I think our partners, and there are companies that have been with us pretty much from the beginning. And the enterprises of the world, Cintas, Northwestern Mutual, Sherwin-Williams, a lot of these big companies from different industries are doing this at a national scale. I think they're not necessarily looking for a finished product, right? But they want to engage with students in order to see a little bit of potential, right? And if they see that potential and then good basis in terms of interpersonal communication and coachability, I think is very important as well. We all know, um, they go for it. A lot of these companies are short in terms of the positions that they have open and their ability and needs to hire more salespeople. And so I don't think that. I mean, again, they're excited that a university would invest in sales education, looking for a little bit of potential in those students. They see them as gems that may need polishing and whatnot. Um, and again, I think Towson University presents a little bit of a different profile. I've talked about grit, but also I think that we are one of the few schools that probably reflect the population of the community in which we exist. In terms of the percentage of students that are minority students, Hispanic, African American. Um, um, we have Greek community here, Italian community in Baltimore. So all of this is our classroom pretty much looks like any public space you would go to in the city of Baltimore, the Baltimore County, or the state of Maryland for that matter. And so I think that's also something that they reach out to us with and say, hey, we may need like a Hispanic speaker for this one
Mm.
role that we have open. Please keep us in mind and let me know if there is a student that maybe fits that profile. So I think that's also something that companies are becoming more and more aware of, that they have to have people that look and sound um, in a way that fits the customer base that is being served.
That's great. All right. Well, listen, once again, we had today with Plamen Peev with Towson University. And just to remind people, Towson is basically around Baltimore, Maryland, kind of not too far from there.
Yeah, so we are right inside the Beltway,
Okay.
technically a couple of miles into Baltimore County,
Okay.
but very close to the city of Baltimore. It's about a 15-20 minute ride from downtown, from the Inner Harbor. So
Very
yeah,
good. Well, thanks for giving us the introduction to your program. Congratulations on your success with the new
thank you.
certification program coming out. It's very exciting to see. Is there anything else before I ask you for your final action step for our listeners? Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up that we didn't get a chance to address briefly?
Again, so we're not getting the word out is important for us at this point, especially now that we have some infrastructure in place in the sense of officially recognized sales center at the university. We're members of the University Sales Center Alliance, which is how we connected in,
Yep.
as well. Um, we we have the certificate launching in the fall, and also we're looking to have the blueprint for a new sales lab
Oh,
in the next business building, which the building you see behind me,
mhm.
it really is the oldest building on campus.
Ah,
And it's very beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, we can really use a building with a little more modern space and arrangement.
that was
So,
good. I did a show recently with a guy named Frank Halk, who built the sales performance lab at Bryant University. So feel free to reach out to him or Dr. Boyer over at Bryant on some of
yeah,
their
I
ideas.
talked to Stephanie actually at our last meeting at the USC in Dallas.
Yeah.
You were there as well.
Yeah.
Um,
So go
so
listen to the
so
show. Yeah, go listen to the show that we did with Frank, who a Bryant grad who supported that. All right, Plum and Pat, thank you so much for all the great insights. Give us one specific action step that people listening to the Sales Game Changers podcast today should implement right now to take their sales or sales leadership career to the next level.
So we're really hoping that our sales certificate actually is going to grow to serve the community of some lifelong learners as well. So we see that as a dual purpose program, which is going to serve traditional students at Towson University, but also we're hoping to be able to offer specific classes and workshops on a piecemeal basis for anybody who's got their degree in say healthcare or engineering, but then coming back at a certain later point in their career, wanting to get more training on the sales side of things, which is very often what people switch to at some point in their careers. So we're really hoping to be able to serve that population as well in the future. So something to look out for.
Very good. Once again, I want to thank Plum and Pat for being on today's Office Hours Sales Professors Unplugged of the Sales Game Changers podcast. Thank you so much. My name is Fred Diamond.